The biblical story of the 12 spies begins with a paradox. After 40 days in the land of Israel, they return carrying evidence of extraordinary abundance. The fruit is so large that it must be carried on a pole between two of them. Everything they have seen confirms that the land is rich and fertile. Yet, the report they bring back is not one of excitement, but one of fear and dread. They tell the people, "We saw the Nephilim there, and we were in our own eyes like grasshoppers, and so we were in their eyes." The Zohar offers a fascinating interpretation of this episode. The giants are not merely extremely large human beings. They represent ancient spiritual forces, the great obstacles that human beings encounter whenever they stand on the threshold of transformation. According to the Zohar, and also earlier Midrashic traditions, the Nephilim are the descendant of primordial beings connected with fallen angels, remnants of an earlier spiritual failure woven into the fabric of creation itself. Their lingering residue of chaos and rebellion that still inhabits the world. The Nephilim symbolize fear, ego, despair, and the overwhelming sense that the challenges before us are larger than we are. Every generation faces its own giants. Some giants appear in the form of external circumstances. Others live within us. There is the giant that whispers that we are not capable enough, not strong enough, not worthy enough. There is the giant of cynicism that convinces us that nothing will ever change. There is the giant of ego that makes us cling to comfort, to status, and control rather than embrace growth. The tragedy of the spies is not that they saw giants. The tragedy is that they allowed the giants to define their reality. Notice the language. They do not begin by describing the giants. They begin by describing themselves. We were in our own eyes like grasshoppers. The battle was already lost before they encountered the inhabitants of the land. The giants had taken up residence within their hearts. Many of us know what it means to stand before a challenge that seems impossible. We face illness, grief, financial struggles, fractured relationships, uncertainty about the future, and moments when the distance between who we are and who we hope to become feels impossibly large. Like the spies, we can begin to see ourselves as grasshoppers before we have taken a single step forward. Yet, among the 12 spies, there were two who saw the same land, the same giants, and reached a completely different conclusion. Joshua and Caleb offered two different spiritual responses to fear. The Zohar teaches that before the spies departed, Moses changed Hoshea's name to Yehoshua and blessed him. Yehoshua or Joshua carried with him the strength of the Torah, the wisdom of his teacher, and the connection to something larger than himself. His courage came from remembering his source. He remained attached to Moses, to God's promise, and to the vision that had guided Israel from Egypt to Sinai and beyond. Caleb's path was different. The Zohar tells us that he separated from the other spies and journeyed to Hebron, where he prayed at the cave of Machpelah, the burial place of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Sarah, Rebekah, and Leah. In a moment of uncertainty, Caleb sought grounding. He literally returned to the ground that held his ancestors, placing himself among the roots from which his people had grown, those who had first heard God's promise and first walked the difficult path of faith. There is something deeply moving about these two responses. Joshua connects himself to Torah and divine promise. Caleb connects himself to memory, and to ancestry. Joshua draws strength from heaven. Caleb draws strength from the earth beneath his feet. Perhaps this is why both are needed. Human beings overcome giants when they remain connected both to their highest ideals and to their deepest roots. We need vision, but we also need grounding. We need faith, but we also need memory. We need the voice that calls us toward the future, and we need the voices of those who carried us to the present. Every day in the Amida, we follow Caleb's path. We invoke Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah. We remind ourselves that we are not standing alone before life's challenges. We stand in a chain of generations stretching back thousands of years. Their courage becomes our courage. Their faith becomes our faith. At the same time, we follow Joshua's path through Torah, through study, through prayer. We reconnect ourselves to God's wisdom and God's vision for the world. We remember that our lives participate in a story larger than our own fears. The Zohar also suggests that this spiritual preparation was necessary because the land of Israel itself represented something revolutionary. The wilderness was sustained by miracles. It was food that descended from heaven, water that appeared from a miraculous well, clouds protected the people, and in the wilderness, holiness was easy to recognize because it appeared in supernatural form. Life in the land would be different. According to our sages, the people would now need to plant seeds, harvest crops, govern communities, resolve disputes, defend their borders, raise families, build an economy. All the great challenge was now not conquering the land only. The great challenge was discovering God within the ordinary life. This was the question that the spies couldn't answer. Could farming become holy? Could business become holy? Could politics become holy? Could family life become holy? Joshua and Caleb believed the answer was yes. The holiness of the land of Israel does not come from escaping the physical world. Its holiness comes from revealing the divine presence within the physical world. Every vineyard, every marketplace, every home becomes an opportunity to transform earth into a dwelling place for God. Perhaps that remains the central challenge of Jewish life. Most of us do not spend our days on mountaintops or in mystical visions. We spend them at work, around dinner tables, caring for children and for parents, paying bills, serving our communities, navigating the ordinary realities of human existence. The Torah asks us whether we can discover holiness there. The spies looked at the land and saw giants, but Joshua and Caleb looked at the same land and saw possibility. The giants never disappear, not entirely. Fear, ego, and despair continue to accompany every generation. The question is whether we will allow them to determine what we see. When we remain connected to Torah, like Joshua, and grounded in our roots, like Caleb, we begin to recognize that the giants are not the defining feature of the landscape. God's promise is. And then, instead of seeing ourselves as grasshoppers, we begin to see ourselves as heirs to Abraham and Sarah, disciples of Moses, partners with God, and builders of a world in which heaven and earth can finally meet.